Great job! Yeah! This guy.
Thank you! Wow!
Hell yeah. Woo-hoo! Great job, man!
And we got a crash. Car spinning left and right.
Buddy, let her rip. Rain like hell, baby! Come on! Oh my god, guys! Yes! Yes! Unbelievable! You guys are the best! Yes, 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 yes! Oh, what a year!
Mikey. Oh, whoa, wrong show, everybody. That is the wrong show. I am sorry, guys. What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Darian Gilliam, aka Black Flags Matter, back for another edition of the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. We are here with our usual panel. So, let's get right into it, guys. So, Martinsville happened. Eric, I'll start off with you. But a lot certainly happened over the weekend, but could you imagine somebody saying that the Cup race would be the worst race all weekend? I didn't think that, I really didn't think that was possible, but last week proved that anything's possible. So what were your thoughts on that race?
Yeah, I mean, the next gen car is unpredictable to say the least. How many Mikeys have you said now? 27, 28,000?
27,570. Just past halfway.
That's
We will finish
right halfway.
We will finish tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow evening in prime time. But go ahead.
I see Irvin Alvarado's keeping a live score in the chat, so that's good to know. But yeah, I mean, the Cup race was eventful. I feel like we're not going to talk too much about the Cup race tonight as much as we usually do because Xfinity and trucks, especially Xfinity, gave us a lot more to talk about. But yeah, I mean, blame it on whatever you want. All the drivers seem to have different theories. Was it the cold weather? Probably a little bit. Was it the new car and the way the aero works? Blaney was saying it was really hard to stay right behind somebody. The new tire is wider, so it was a little bit more grip, made it harder to bump people out of the way. Also, new tire, because the cold temperatures wasn't laying any rubber down. The groove never widened. Shifting, Dale Jr. acted like on Twitter that shifting maybe was playing a role. There are a ton of factors that in some way, shape, or form seem to be affecting the racing. But yeah, what we saw Saturday night was boring. It was a complete disappointment from Martinsville's perspective.
So I want to kind of build on that. So I watched part of Door Bumper Clear and they had Junior on talking about it, and they said something really interesting that I don't think NASCAR or really any of the teams has talked about that much, and is that when they were setting up the like the gear ratios and everything like that, and the gears the way they are now, they were setting it up with the 550 horsepower engine package that they originally had planned on. So when they scrapped that, they still had 550 horsepower engine gear ratios and like the gear setup, but they were doing it with the 670 horsepower, which is why they never got up to fifth gear at Martinsville and were going between third and fourth the whole time. So when they were talking about it, the thing that caught my ear is that Junior's like, yeah, this isn't getting fixed anytime soon. And they even had said that they're shifting like the way that they did at Martinsville at tracks like Darlington too. So like, this is like a mile and a half on down problem that's like at the very least is probably going to be there like through the duration of this year.
Yeah. Well, they didn't shift at Richmond. So I still feel like it varies on a track by track level. I'm listening to Scott Miller on Sirius XM radio, and granted, he's not a driver. He hasn't driven these cars the way Dale Jr. has, but he sounded like there maybe was something they could play with there come October. But it sounded like their first priority would be to work with Goodyear to develop a different compound. I think Blaney and a couple other drivers, I forget who exactly said it, maybe Austin Dillon as well, were saying that they could be more aggressive with the left side tires, especially on this car, create a little more wear. Like, I understand coming into this year, Goodyear wanted to create a very durable tire to prevent, catastrophic failures left and right. So many new elements of this car, just wanted to play it safe. But now that we've had a good number of races under our belt, a first trip to a lot of these tracks, come the second trip, I think you could manufacture a riskier tire that allows for more fall off and hopefully allows for more passing. Because that was the thing. Like, people are going to say, oh, you just hated this race because there were no wrecks. There weren't any wrecks. No. That is true. There were not a single spin at Martinsville. It was more because there just wasn't any passing. Like I said, even the bump and run seemed glitched. Like, you couldn't even bump guys out of the way.
We watched it. I recorded like the last couple laps. I was actually down right next to the fence in one, and you can clearly see, and Eric, you pointed this out to me, Joey Logano nails William Byron in the back bumper
on the last lap
and doesn't move him at all. Like, maybe
it moved him about
6 inches
maybe
up.
Like a third of a groove up at most.
I know what it was. It was NASCAR Heat 4 physics. Yeah, you can barely move him up and stuff.
But like, I think that it was a perfect, like, just setting for awfulness. Like we already know, and Grant, the 550 kind of turned this on its head, but generally we know that the track gets grippier when it's colder. The racing generally isn't as good when it's colder. The gear ratio part made it one thing that Dale Jr. said that I think really can be shown and played out was that because of how the gear ratios and everything is that when the car on the high side had a car underneath it, that car had just that little bit more momentum to get up through the gears quicker, which made it even harder to pass on top of the aero issues that Blaney talked about. So it was like a perfect storm of awfulness. Like, I'll be real. Like, that was probably the worst race. I easily the worst race of this season, in my opinion. But I would say that was the worst race that I've watched. And maybe it's because I was in person. I was disappointed, but that was the worst race I think I've watched since 2014 Richmond. Wow. Like, that was an awful layout.
You pointed out to me on the drive home from the track this weekend, Jarrett, 2019 Pocono, the first with the 550 package before they added PJ1. That's what this race looked like. There was almost no passing one lap after restart, and it was all single groove racing. It was more disappointing to see it happen at Martinsville because we expect so much more from Martinsville.
And it's just crazy because, you would think that, the way that this next gen car is changed the racing at, some of these places, you'd think that, Martinsville, definitely a shoo-in to be one of the best races of the year on Saturday night, primetime TV and stuff and just everything about it was just a bad combo the entire weekend. But I mean, outside of that though, going back to the competition aspect, Hendrick Motorsports, of course, just continues to own Martinsville, no matter what package and stuff. And then wasn't Chad Knaus, he was in the booth, right? Yeah, I see. He was loving that, man. I bet he was loving that. Chase Elliott was dominating, the first portion of the race, and then William Byron ends up closing the deal to become the first multiple winner of 2022.
Because I guess since fall 2020, we've seen every driver but Larson win there so far for Hendrick.
Yeah.
Larson's 0 for 3, but it was surprising that he wasn't super competitive, and either Bowman was okay. They both ran around 10th, but it was Larson and Elliott who I think led all the laps minus like 1 or 2 during green flag pit stops.
Yeah.
I didn't get to pay attention to race as much as I wanted to, but obviously, because I was busy working, me and my wife worked this weekend, but I would pay attention to, here and there, and obviously going to watch the 48, so he did. He just kind of stayed about 19, 20 if I think about it all day long.
Well, it was weird. Like guys like Hamlin, I know he's not at Hendrick, but like the fact that Hamlin was so off, most of Gibbs was off. Truex, I know he had a penalty. I think he had a penalty, but he was off already.
Yeah, he was like 12 when he got penalized, I think.
It's weird because you would have thought that honestly this would have been similar to what we saw at Richmond.
Yeah, it's just to go from they looked back, like looked as elite as ever at Richmond to they looked about as off as ever at Martinsville. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, I noticed too when Chase Elliott, and granted, I saw a bit on Twitter after the fact that his car had started to fall off a bit, but it was still easily a top 5 car even falling off. But he restarted because I believe that they came down pit road and took tires later in the race after like one of the cautions, and he came off I think like 12th, maybe 11th, and it took him 40 or 50 laps to get past. I can't for the life of me remember who it was. It was 10th. I think it was Reddick. You could not get past him for 10th for that long, and I believe that's where he finished. Like it was just
with
almost
fresh tires. Yeah.
Like what I love about Martinsville generally is that it is hard to pass. That is part of the fun with it. Same with the fun with like Old Bristol. It's hard as hell to pass. You got to move people out of the way, or you got to time the runs to get past people well. But this is like when you take that next step over, and it's just that it's too hard to pass.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see when you take out the green flag pit stops and different stuff like that, how many green flag passes there were in this race compared to the 2 from last year. That's what I'd be really interested in.
Probably one of the least passing races in Martinsville's history. I mean, and that's a long history too. So, I mean, it just goes to show that, a lot of NASCAR fans, they love Martinsville and stuff. So, yeah, when that race didn't hit at all, it was certainly disappointing. But, I mean, as far as the field, though, I mean, William Byron, the first guy to win, multiple races this season. Eric, let's start off with you. You picked him to win, actually, too. So have your opinions on Byron changed? Is he turning into, slowly but surely, a championship contender in your eyes?
I feel like my opinion hasn't really changed. Like we've when he first got into the Cup Series, he was so young, didn't have high expectations. But every year he seems to be getting a little bit better. He finally broke through and won a race in 2020. Last year he won a race at a non-super speedway and made it past first round of the playoffs. And we're like, okay, he's kind of every year taking those small steps forward. At some point, now he's in his mid-20s. At some point, you feel like he's going to rattle off multiple wins and maybe break into a championship 4. And I think early on this year, sure, it's easy to say because he's the only driver with more than one win at this point, but it sure looks like he and Rudy Fugle, that combination who won a truck championship together, or I guess
almost.
Yeah, that's right. They blew a motor with like the last race.
Weren't even in the championship 4. So
but the combination that should have won a truck championship together, they're finally really breaking into they're breaking into the Cup Series together in a great way this year with multiple wins and at 2 very different racetracks for sure. So I think Byron, this could be his year. This could be his big breakout season. I'm going to wait until he wins at least one more race, but right now I don't see any reason why he won't. Hendrick looks really fast and Byron's one of the guys leading the way. So I think he's got a great shot.
I think at this point we're still way too early. I mean, we've seen guys have seasons like this before where they win 2 races, look pretty hot at the start, and they fall off later in the year. I think about Jimmy Johnson, 2017, post 7 championship. He won 3 races, started that season. Like, oh, he's just as good as ever. No, he fell off. He was never the same after that.
Never again.
I think really at this point, like, yes, with 2 wins, that is going to put him pretty well. I can't remember. I have like a list somewhere of like playoff points. He has a good amount of those minus even where he would be in points. But I think what it helps out with is, by technicality, he is the technically first driver to lock into the playoffs because of getting 2 wins. But I think at this point is that Hendrick has 3 teams with wins so far. And I'm going to assume right now that Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, and William Byron are good enough to stay in the top 30. So really what it affords them to do is, 1, I believe Chase Elliott will get a win, but 2, work towards that. But 2, it helps them that they're able to test stuff moving forward in the season. Like, I think that's something that like Jimmy Johnson always would do well with Chad Canales is they'd get a really big gap when it was like the chase just off points and then just spend the last 10 weeks of the regular season testing stuff. And now you basically given Hendrick Motorsports 20 weeks to test stuff until then. I mean, look how it worked for Kyle Larson last year. Like, he was not as good early in the season as he was from the midpoint onwards.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, Jared. I mean, you think about Richmond, if it wasn't for just a little being off on the pit strategy there, Byron was likely going to have 3 wins at this point. If it wasn't for Chastain sending it into Allmendinger, Bowman was likely going to have 2. So really any of the Hendrick guys at this point could be considered a favorite theoretically.
Right. So, I mean, now that we've, we're a couple of weeks removed from Toyota's first win of the season, now that, we've seen them struggle at Martinsville this year and stuff. I don't know, Eric, was that one win basically a fluke, or, I mean, still too early in the season?
No, it's too early to say it was a fluke because Gibbs has been fast this year. It's clear they're not as fast as Hendrick still. I think with the next gen car, it's been a big reset in a lot of ways. We've seen RCR, Trackhouse, a few other teams show more speed than usual, but it is surprising, or it hasn't been a great equalizer in the sense that Hendrick is still clearly out in front. Yeah. I think Joe Gibbs Racing will be around by the end of the season, but you do have to take a step back and look at even last year. Truex I know won 4 races. Hamlin won 2. They both made the championship 4. Kyle Busch won 2, I believe, and Bell got 1. Like, they're still not. It's been a couple of years now since a Gibbs driver has rattled off 6, 7, 8 wins, whereas Hendrick last year had Larson win 10, Bowman win 4. The year before, Chase won 5, 6, whatever it was. I think it was 5. Like, Joe Gibbs they're not the best team in NASCAR anymore. They haven't been for at least 2 or 3 years. So I still think they're great. I think they have really good veteran drivers, but this car does not favor good veteran drivers. It favors really everyone equally, regardless of experience. Sometimes it favors the aggressor, and Truex not super aggressive. Hamlin, I know he punts people out of the way sometimes, but I don't think he's naturally an aggressive driver. Bell's not naturally aggressive driver. So I don't know. I think they're all going to win races at some point this year, but they're just, all we know right now is for sure Chevy is ahead, namely Hendrick. I think you could say Penske or Gibbs are in second place, third place.
I think Penske's in second place, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think
Blaney, Trackhouse. It's not Trackhouse completely, but I'd say Trackhouse with Chastain is right up there.
Yeah, it's up there too.
I would say I am still, even though he has the win, Denny Hamlin right now. Just that was uncharacteristically awful at what could be argued his best track. I know that it was hard to pass, but Truex, and we've talked about that, but Truex at the same time started, I believe, behind Denny Hamlin, and he wasn't lapped in the first stage. And yes, he ran mediocre, but he was still around that like 11th to 14th range until he got his penalty, whereas like Denny Hamlin was below the top 25 for much of the night. And
after he went a lap down, he was racing like Eric Jones and Suarez or somebody for the lead for the lucky dog, and he couldn't even beat them.
McDowell. He tried to move
McDowell,
and he couldn't get past him, and McDowell is not as good as he was last year.
No way.
By any means. So
Didn't
it's like
Suarez try to move Chase Elliott to get to just
get a lap
down.
back.
He was 2 laps down though, so he still would have been
what you got to do.
And
it didn't work. Bumper run was broke.
I feel like I didn't hear as much about him, but hey, Ross Chastain quietly got another top 5 actually.
Yeah.
It's funny. He started in like 30th or 27th or something, and he just slowly, because it was that hard to pass. Slowly. He never went backwards at any point. He was always going forward.
He was so far back,
because it was so hard to pass, and because it was a shorter race distance wise, he only ended up at 5th. I think if that race goes another 100 laps, he probably finishes 3rd.
I'm looking at names that are kind of surprising me, and I feel like Kevin Harvick was faster most of the weekend, but he still got 14th.
SHR was great in qualifying. That was the big takeaway.
Bubba was really fast in practice, but he kind of wasn't there in the race. He finished 16th. And I didn't really get a chance to really see where he finished. I just knew last time I really remembered he was around like 19th, 20th. Bowman just outside of top 10 and 12. I was actually surprised to see that. I didn't think he was doing too good.
Yeah, Stuart Haas before the race even started was obviously the biggest surprise to me. I mean, you had Eric Almirola P2 and then Cole Custer of all drivers in P3, but then they basically both just kind of disappeared during the race and stuff. It was all Hendrick. Penske was up there too. I do feel though Ryan Blaney is very, very close to getting his first win very, very soon, because there's this one dude on Twitter. His name is I don't know his last name. His first name is Avery though. Some of y'all know him, and he put out this little stat thing too, and it said that Ryan Blaney's like his average running spot around that is like around somewhere in the top 5 to top 10 range. It was basically the highest out of everybody. So
does he still have the most laps led on the season? Because he did after Richmond. I think he was.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's there.
He did take a crashed car to 7th place last year at Bristol, so who knows what he can do if he doesn't have a crashed car.
Yeah, you never know. But
summon the power of his father.
But I guess that answers the question I was about to ask you guys. I feel like Ryan Blaney will get a win sooner rather than later. But
he reminds me of Denny Hamlin last year.
Yeah,
I'll be real. But no one is taking themselves and just put themselves way out in front of everyone else by any means. Mm-hmm. But I think he's one of the 4 guys who has finished in the top 10 more than half the races this year with 5, which I know I keep going back to that. But so far, when you get to about 8, 9, 10 races into a year, usually there's 7 to 12 people who have had more top 10s than races. So it shouldn't be understated right now how much of a crapshoot it is to pick each week. Yes, you have your guys who are generally going to be fast, but when it comes to guys who are up front a lot, I mean, I believe Danny, if you still have it up, Chase Briscoe, I remember being up front a lot.
He finished 9th.
Yeah, he got a top 10. Austin Cindric was around that top 10 range the whole night.
Austin Dillon got 3rd.
Yes. I mean, it's it's not exactly the equalizer at the top 1 or 2, but when it comes to
the field
4th through 20th, yeah, it is.
We're still seeing parity across the field. And just say this, this William Byron's first ever multi-win season in Cup. So
could be more coming.
Only 8 races in.
Yep, only 8 races in. Still have a long way to go. Now, as far as the ratings are concerned, and that was it was very interesting. In total, a 1.1 rating with a total of 1.8 million viewers. It was down 18% from a delayed Sunday race last year, but only up 9.5% from the Wednesday night edition in 2020. Jarrett, I'll start off with you. What do you make of this? Just a bad combination, all around that, led to this low number?
Partly, yes. I mean, it's bad no matter which way you spin it. But a 1 hour delay will affect the viewership, but usually shouldn't be like that far off. I mean, it's the proof is right there in the down 18% from a race that was delayed to a Sunday last year. I think that they should have bit the bullet on the scheduling in general. I know they didn't want to go against golf, but it's just proof right now. Saturday night races, no matter if they're delayed or not, do not bring in ratings.
At
like
all.
Viewers just they don't watch compared to a normal Sunday one. That's why I believe the next Saturday night race is like
Do they have
is it
another one this year?
Daytona? Is it Daytona?
It might be.
Maybe.
I think
that might be the
Daytona's
only
the
one they
next-
have.
Um,
I'm probably wrong. Someone in the chat will let us know.
Well, because they have Sunday night at Bristol, Sunday night at the 600. The All Star race is a Sunday, I believe.
Yep.
And Nashville is a Sunday night.
Richmond,
starts at
Kansas
5.
are both Sunday races
They're-
later this
so-
year.
So it might be
believe-
Daytona.
Yeah,
It
I
might
believe
be
Daytona, and then
What's
Bristol.
happened to night racing in NASCAR, guys?
Nobody
They're
watches.
Well,
yeah,
one, the racing's bad, and two,
Yeah.
the viewership is awful. Like
Yeah.
Nobody
racing,
watches.
I
I'm
do
surprised that hasn't happened sooner.
I do wish that Nashville Super Speedway race was a proper night race. They got the lights to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just again, unless you're going to be able to do it on a Sunday night on NBC, it would just be a ratings hit, you know, in a bad way, not a good way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just Saturday night racing just doesn't bring in the ratings like it used to. You know, it sucks. But I mean, hey, the proof's
To
in the
be fair,
pudding.
it was also the first race on cable this year. So
Yeah, it was on
give
FS1
that caveat
as well. That was
True,
another factor.
true.
Yeah.
So changing the channel 1 week to the next for the first time all year and having it be at Saturday night, like perfect storm. But
And then the race wasn't really interesting either.
like I noticed this, and I don't think I mentioned it. I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, but I noticed before during the Richmond race, they they showed more ads. It felt like for the Bristol Dirt race than they did for Martinsville this
Yeah.
weekend.
I
I don't know if you guys noticed the same thing.
They're
Like,
marketing
hyping up-
it as an
Bristol
Easter
Dirt,
thing,
baby,
yeah.
Bristol
it's on
Dirt,
Easter
Bristol.
Sunday.
It's like it almost felt like this Martinsville race was a throwaway race, which is kind of a shame because, well,
It's
in
Martinsville.
hindsight, it was probably for the best that people didn't see that mess. But you know, typically a night race at Martinsville should be getting press, so I'm a little surprised
Yeah.
that didn't.
For sure. But one thing that isn't down, of course, is the famous pole! The famous iceberg pole! I got it right.
Did you say pole?
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 Pole? Pole? Famous iceberg pole?
Fine.
What? Yeah, but go over the poll. What were the ratings this week?
So we had around 14,500 votes this week on the poll, which for a Saturday night race is pretty good. 7% of you said it was great, and 17% of you said it was a good race, meaning the net positivity was only 24%, which is the second lowest ever to the first Pocono
And-
race of 2019.
And fun fact, it's actually more positive than Jeff Gluck's poll.
Yes. Because 41% of you said it was an average race, which I'm still disagreeing with you on.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
22% of you said it was below average,
That's
which
what I
means
put.
that the below average vote is about the same as the net positive. 13% of you said it was bad. So we have a net negativity of 35%, which again, I believe is the second highest net negativity, I should say, second highest net negativity since the Pocono race, which I believe was like only the fifth or sixth race we ever did on the poll.
Wow.
So
and it's
this
for
is
Martinsville too, so it's doubly crazy. That's crazy.
Oh, it is the lowest short track by a wide
Ever.
margin.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I was actually, you know, because our audience is generally more positive, as Danny showed, like and said, but I was actually genuinely surprised because early on in it, there was like it was like a net positivity of 50%. I'm like, how did half of the people that watch this race say it was good?
But then
Like-
over time, they were like, "Oh wait, no, we gotta,
Dude, it just continuously went down
gotta do
throughout
our
the
duty,
week.
Got to do our duty to bring it down, bring the poll down."
But looking at some of the comments here, we won't go through too many of them. But there's some pretty good ones. CBA 2442 had the top rated one, said Martinsville set such a high standard that when races like this happen, a mediocre race is more noticeable and disappointing. I will agree that, you know, like we've been saying, a good track like this having bad races.
Here, I'll say this really quick. It says a lot that the F1 race at Australia was way more entertaining because that track, like, it's extremely hard to pass, you know, unless you use strategy and all that stuff. So for that
be
race
fair,
to be more
didn't-
entertaining than Martinsville, that's crazy.
Perez won that race, right?
No. Leclerc won.
Oh, Leclerc did. No,
Yeah.
Leclerc did. My bad. Didn't he lead every lap?
Yes. Basically, yes.
I mean, it's basically like Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's what I'm saying. It sounds like they're
But
pretty similar.
at least Perez got P2, and then
Yeah.
George Russell got P3. So it's a very unique podium at least. But Martinsville, yeah, it was meh.
Napa Racing Fan 927 said this one. This is pretty much to you, Eric. Says looks like Eric Estep was right for picking William Byron for trucks and Cup.
Yeah.
I
Willie
believe
B,
this is,
baby.
I believe this is William Byron's breakout season, and
Stay tuned,
it
chat.
might be, and he might be an early championship 4 favorite. I was
only
kind
can
of
wanna see
hoping
the
for
standings.
Austin. Yeah, I was kind of hoping for Austin Dillon and the 3-car to win in the end, but I'm glad Byron won. I wonder how far we have to go down to have like the really spicy ones, because I feel like it's not as far.
Zesty.
John says 0 on-track passes for the lead, only 2 leaders for the whole race, minus 6 laps in a pit cycle. A massive snooze fest, especially for Martinsville, which usually is one of the best tracks on the schedule. ML William 213 says, did Clint Boyer know that he was live when he was talking about fixing short track racing?
Oh no!
Yeah,
I agree with him.
Yeah.
And it says, I agree with him and Chad, but was surprised to hear them having such a conversation during a broadcast.
I heard that over the broadcast. I was at the race, but I was in the media center during this point, and I heard that part, and I like my ears perked on. I'm like, are they like on commercial? Is this like a hot mic? What's going on?
They're like,
And
no,
then they kept talking.
We're live,
I'm like,
bro. We're live.
That was unironically the best 30 seconds, minute long of any NASCAR broadcast this season, because for a moment they were honest and actually reacting strongly to something that they had seen that was going on the track. Like that was the most genuine. Feels like Boyer's reading off a script half the time. He's got his book of Boyerisms and he's just going down the line every lap. But that was a moment where he, in that moment, reacted purely and spontaneously to what Chad was saying. And it was great. Like it was really interesting. Like we all thought, this can't be real, right? That doesn't sound scripted at all. I don't know. I thought that was really interesting to hear them kind of speculating, not even necessarily speculating, but like, just kind of discussing what the issues
but
were.
Then
like,
I bet you in one of their headsets, a freaking Fox producer
Go to commercial.
was like,
Go to commercial.
Shut up. Stop being honest.
It was weird.
We can't have the fans actually like us.
Yeah.
Well, here's 2 comments that kind of push back against what a majority of fans are saying. First one's from Doc_Lightning says, I think the fans are overreacting a bit. It's the first race at Martinsville with a new car. We should have expected an average race at tracks because of the change. Hopefully NASCAR learns from this and makes changes from it. More horsepower on the short tracks, please.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I don't consider that to be an average race, though. That's the thing.
No, I thought it was bad.
No,
I agree with them that hopefully NASCAR makes changes, but the problem is that it was not just it was a bad race.
Like if it were an average race, I mean that would be the Richmond race. That was an average race.
Yeah,
that's an average race.
Strategy made it good.
Yeah,
and we weren't freaking out about it.
But no, people are freaking out over this, and
and then let's see. I can scroll down to the bottom one really quick. I already have the first comment written down just because I'll be honest, I didn't want to scroll twice to find comments.
Yeah, just write them down.
Well, they're usually pretty short because people want to get them out there quicker.
Like that's the fun. They just say like hi or like one little letter.
No, it's usually like it's usually like 2 or 3 different people going back and forth all the time.
Ratio.
But the last comment was from Kai JPG Soares, who said an effing waste of time. 100% the F1 race will be better than this.
Hey, well, I liked it better. Yeah. And shout out to Alex Albon too. He made one set of tires last too.
There's so many people, just the same ones. It always starts with it was effing terrible, effing worst race of the year, effing worst race of the season.
It could have wasted even more of his time though if it was still 500 laps as it had.
Oh, hey, thank goodness this one was 400. Thank goodness.
And then
rightfully so.
The first comment was from Denny Delivers. Is this positive or negative?
Negative.
God, how is he so quick? It's just a meme. It's neutral.
Negative.
It's neutral.
All right. Denny Delivers says truck race, beef, Xfinity race, beef, cup race, sleep.
He always puts the funny one.
I think that's pretty neutral. Yeah,
that's pretty neutral. Yeah, that's neutral.
It made me laugh. So
that's good. That's good.
Anyone tell us who was after him?
Oh
I didn't get that far.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that was the poll on the NASCAR weekly podcast. So make sure to go on and vote after every single race on the Icebergs channel. Okay, so now moving on to the real news, to the real events that happened over the weekend. We had a freaking brawl during the Xfinity Series race, and it wasn't, one of those NASCAR fights where it was like, oh, you did this, you did that, pointing the fingers and stuff like that. No. There was actually a freaking punch thrown in this one, too.
Sam Mayer had a black eye.
Yeah, 3 punches. Ty Gibbs versus Sam Mayer. Eric, I'll start off with you. I know in the past, we have talked about these two drivers, going up against each other.
We've had them both on the show,
yeah, both
I think,
on the
a couple
show.
of times.
They're around the same age. They have a ton of talent. And we have been saying for quite some time, like, hey, watch out for this, Ty Gibbs versus Sam Mayer rivalry. But I didn't think it would be like this. I was just talking about the on-track action.
I was thinking more like a Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt type rivalry.
But hey, there seems to be more. I mean, like, hey, Eric, you said your opinions, but you haven't said it. You have yet to say it on the show. But hey, what'd you think of the whole deal?
Yeah, I like Ty Gibbs. I think we all have a soft spot for Ty Gibbs. He's young, he's really talented, but what he did Friday night, there's just no excusing it. Just the overall lack of awareness. Like, I'd had him on my show a few days earlier, and on my show, he acknowledged that, I get haters, and the haters don't know what they're talking about, but like, I don't let it bother me anymore. I'm like,
Didn't you upload that the day of the race, or was it?
It was like a day before or 2 days before, but
it was very soon to it. I know that.
He's saying all this, and I'm like, okay, well, at least it's good to know that he knows that people think he drives over aggressive, that he knows that there's a stigma around him, that he's that spoiled rich kid. At least he's aware of that. So hopefully he can do things on and off the track that push back against that stereotype. Like, okay, he's aware of it. He's self-aware. What the heck was Friday? That was the most hypocritical incident I have seen in professional sports, maybe ever. To go from bumping. Not just bumping your teammate, bumping run at Richmond the week before, but then driving through him in turns 3 and 4, not giving him a chance to race to the line, from doing that to your teammate and acknowledging that you wronged him by saying he owes me one. So Ty Gibbs acknowledged I was over aggressive. To acknowledge that 1 week and then to get bumped, not wrecked, just bumped, not even for the win. Yeah, it was for the dash for cash, but he get bumped for second. And he completely lost his mind. Running into Mayer on the cooldown lap, that's one thing.
I don't like that because the race is
I don't
over.
like it. I don't like it, but it's like, okay, if it ends there, I don't like that he really only tore up his own car. So I'm like, at that point, whatever. Runs into him on pit road, gets fined for that. We can talk about later. Gets out of his car. He confronts Mayer with his helmet on. Mayer's in the process of taking his helmet off. He gives Mayer a little shove as Mayer's taking his helmet off.
I'm like,
Mayer goes back over, and Mayer didn't have to escalate it, but if I was in that position, I just got shoved by Ty. I would probably not think straight either, and I'd probably go after him as well. He goes after Ty Gibbs, helmet off. Gibbs still doesn't take his helmet off and starts throwing punches. Like, there's nothing. Ty Gibbs did nothing correct. In fact, he actively did everything wrong over that 3-minute span, and there's no excusing it. I hope he learns, because he's going to be booed loudly for the rest of his career, and I hope he's ready for it. I hope he's ready for that. I don't think he is. That's the thing is, I don't think he is. I think it's going to bother him, and I think when he gets to Cup one day and starts losing, I think it's going to get to him. I worry he's mentally not ready to handle the stresses of racing in the Cup Series.
We'll see.
Talking about booing him, I don't know why this was the tweet that took off, but I tweeted that Ty Gibbs is getting booed at Kyle Busch levels right now. And it really was. I've been at Kyle Busch wins before, and that was louder. And there was only probably 20,000 people there.
Was this also during pre-race as well? He was getting
pre-race. There was
he was getting a little bit,
but it wasn't that bad. But no, after the race, it was noticeable. In my section, it was damn near deafening. Wow. And usually I like to cheer for the people boo for, just because it's to troll them. I was like, nope, not today. Not doing that one.
Can't even
these people
joke
are drunk.
about that one.
Yeah, these people are drunk. It is late. I am not testing those waters.
Probably. Let's see. I feel like a lot of fans might not be as familiar with who Sam Mayer is yet, but they at least know who Ty Gibbs is. They know where he comes from, and they know Sam Mayer drives for Dale Earnhardt Jr., so that doesn't help him none at all.
No,
exactly. And the thing that I found funny, the only thing I found funny about Sam's comments is they were weak punches. As my eye is swelling.
I was just about to say, no, that was the funniest part. The way he said it in his post-race interviews, like, they were weak.
He looks like Rocky at the end of the fight, and he's like, no, they're absolutely fine.
They were weak.
Who threw that piece of paper at me?
But the way he said it, though, the way he just said, they were weak, I was just like,
I like Sam, but it's like, come on, dude, don't lie. Like, come on. I'm on Sam's side here because the whole thing with me about keeping your helmet on is really the way you think about it with what's basically exposed because of people getting in the way. Mm-hmm. Like the only way that he's defending himself is punching Ty Gibbs in the face. Yeah, and I have a feeling that a lot of fans would agree right now that Ty Gibbs probably after that race had a very punchable face. And that's why he kept his helmet on. Like at least Sam took his helmet off like a man, went over there and it was Ty Gibbs initiating pretty much all of it. Like he did the initial push. Sam went back over because, hey, like if you're gonna push him, dude, come on, man. Like you expect him to come back.
Also, what happened?
And he pushed him again.
Yeah, but Sam also touched his visor too. I guess he was trying to make eye contact. I guess, or
I think he was trying to tell him to take the helmet off.
Yeah,
I would want to. I'm sorry if somebody is running into me after the checkered flag, hitting me on the pit road.
I can't hear you.
Take it off.
He sounds like he'll probably sound like the grandma from Charlie Brown.
The Swedish chef.
Heard the burger. But I don't blame Sam at all. The only thing he did wrong is saying that the punches were weak. Like when he's when he has basically an apple growing where his eye was. Like I mean, there's really nothing other than that I can say Sam did wrong. It's short track racing. He bumped into a guy on the last lap.
Who bumps into people routinely
for $100,000 too?
I had no problem with Mayer's move at the end there, especially after Gibbs lost the lead straight up to Brandon Jones. That's what I think is so remarkable.
I'll be real. I was expecting him to curb him into the wall.
And I almost forgot this too. Ty Gibbs, this is the second race at Martinsville where he's leading a bunch of laps but doesn't win the race. And then this is even worse because gets passed on the passed lap, doesn't even finish second, ends up still getting a top 10, but still that car's
and how many races is Go ahead.
I was gonna say of the people who were eligible for the Dash for Cash, Ty Gibbs went from going to win the race and going to win the $100,000 to being the worst of the guys eligible for Dash for Cash.
AJ Allendale ended up winning it.
He stole those kids Halloween candy in the final corner.
Is Brandon Jones gonna every other race this guy wins is gonna be a big fight on pit road?
There's always something that happens in a Brandon Jones.
I didn't realize
I was at his Kansas win when I believe it was Cole Custer versus Tyler Reddick.
Yeah.
And I'm just realizing every time he wins, I'm gonna be there and they're gonna be fighting.
His Darlington win was problems with Chastain and Hamlin.
Yeah, he won in Phoenix in 2020, I believe it was. Now I think that was the same weekend that McDowell and Suarez fought during qualifying. I think I may be wrong about that.
No, it was.
We'd have to double check.
I think
maybe that was 2019.
Oh no, 2019. My bad.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember it was the same year. I wanted it to be. I was close.
But no.
He beat Kyle Busch in that one, so he beat his teammate.
Yeah. That was probably his most impressive one. This win was impressive, beating Gibbs on that final restart. But yeah, I mean, I'd hate to brush over it. Even freaking Joe Gibbs looked like he was only half paying attention to Brandon Jones at the end there, which I can't blame him. His grandson made a fool of himself on national TV. But
can we take a second to acknowledge though the fact that Brandon Jones has 5 wins, and he's honestly a driver I didn't expect to get 5 wins.
I thought he had less than that. Honestly.
He's been in the series for 5 years. I mean, it's bound to happen eventually.
Hopefully, have the.
I mean, he's doing I'm sorry. For the longest time, people would compare him to really bad drivers like Stephen Wallace. He's no Stephen Wallace.
But he's no Kyle Busch either.
I don't Justin Allgaier.
Yeah.
I don't know how long he's going to stay in Xfinity Series forever. He might make it. He might stay there forever for all I know. But at this point, with the Menards sponsorship, he makes me think of Matt Crafton of the Xfinity Series now.
Yeah, he really is. I compare him kind of to a young Justin Allgaier who really didn't win that much early on in his career, but once he got into the right situation, everything lined up correctly. He got a few wins he gets a few wins every year,
I guess.
But
I guess one of the few positives to take away from the fight and stuff is that it went viral, especially on Twitter. Bleacher Report was tweeting about it. Pat McAfee was tweeting about it. Eric, I'll start with you again. Do you think this type of publicity helps or hurts the sport?
I think it helps. You can't have this every week. If this was happening every week, it would become tiresome. It'd be boring,
silly.
But if you get a couple of these a year, and at least the Xfinity Series has been delivering on this a couple of times a year for the last few years, I think it's good. I think it's really good when you get him from time to time. And I think it is good you've established Ty Gibbs as the villain. He is the villain the rest of this year. He might have already been the villain to some, but now he is
it's official.
Unquestionably the villain to the majority of the Xfinity.
He should just run with it. Just run with it, bro.
See, he could. That's my argument. Is I wanted to ask you guys, where does Ty Gibbs go from here? Because obviously he's talented. He's going to race in the Cup Series someday. But do you feel like at any point he's going to be? Do you think it's possible for him to redeem himself in the eyes of any significant number of fans, or do you think he's forever going to be booed like Kyle Busch?
If I was him, honestly, just because of the relationship there in Joe Gibbs Racing, I would honestly have a sit down of Kyle Busch and just ask him how he handles it.
Yeah, just get the talk from KFB. I mean, he grew up watching it too. Yeah, get the talk.
I'll be real.
Well, son, here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Well, I'll be real here. You know, we're talking about the negative that could happen, but I think for there is a positive for Gibbs, the field should be worried, because if this dude has a chip on his shoulder, like, he needs to prove that he's better than people are saying. And that's the mentality he takes with it, and he doesn't let it get to him. I know that he probably will with how young he is, but if he doesn't,